Games. This is the podcast where I interview streamers and content creators with the sole purpose of getting to know the person a little bit better behind the camera. Today's guest, we have Bubzia. You'll all know Bubzia as the Blindfolded Mario 64 Maestro. Bubzia, thank you for taking the time to come on to Behind the Camera. How are we doing today?
Yes, thank you. I'm doing fine. I'm very happy to be here and talk a bit about whatever, honestly, like Mario, gaming, life, philosophy, whatever you want.
Brilliant. I love to hear that. Yes, no, it's very good to have you on. So, yeah, just to give you like a bit of a rundown of the format of the way we do this. I sent you the questions in advance just so that there's nothing that could come up that would surprise you. And yeah, basically, we'll just sort of have a chat, have a bit of fun, and we'll go from there.
Mhm.
So,
Sounds good.
yeah, sweet. So, let's begin then. So, okay, so in terms of streaming, it's safe to say that you're a household name. Anybody who streams, especially within the realm of Mario 64, they know who you are, like specifically for your blindfolded speedruns. But before we get to the blindfolded aspect of your streaming, take us back to like before this. Like, where did your gaming journey begin? Like, even before streaming, like what got you into gaming and then streaming as a whole?
Yeah, it's a long journey, honestly, if I think about it, because I was basically gaming since I was very, very, very young. I have like an older brother, and he was already gaming when I was kind of born. So as soon as I was like a bit older and could understand what is happening on like a TV and stuff, I was like always next to him, watching him, and then also playing myself since like pre-kindergarten days probably. I remember like Link's Awakening on the original Game Boy before I could even like read or anything. I just was already trying it. So yeah, it's been I've been gaming like all life basically, and um yeah, played lots of different kind of games also with friends. Like was lots into like MMOs and stuff as well during high school. And in my streaming career actually started pretty late compared to all of that. Actually, it was only like 7 years ago or so.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was like in 2017.
Yeah.
So it's still pretty fresh, I would say. Not very fresh, but you know what I mean.
Oh, for
Compared
sure.
to kindergarten days.
Yeah, like in the grand scheme of things, like because obviously there are people who have been doing it for a lot longer than like we might think, and obviously like streaming itself is becoming like I think particularly since COVID and post COVID, it is becoming like more of a bigger thing. Like it's a lot more accessible for people to be able to go live, through these different mediums, and you even see people like these days, like they don't have like a proper setup. They'll just literally be they'll have like their face cam and then they'll be recording like their TV from their phone. But like it all
Mhm.
it all still counts. Like we have to go from somewhere. And like what I like about that is like when you say like watching like your older brother play, it's like it very much kind of gives off the whole it's like a meme where it's just you give your younger sibling like an unplugged controller and then they convince them that they're like playing along with you sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
so like in
happens.
terms so like what was like the sort of was like Link's Awakening, was that like the first sort of like, or like
That's
Zelda
like
as a whole, was it like the first game series that like you played or were exposed to?
I don't know if like first series, but it's like the first vivid memory I have of video gaming in my life. Like I really I have when you think of back when you were like extremely extremely young and you have these like hazy memories and stuff. That's what I have of like Link's Awakening, because like I played it literally, I think I was like 2 years old or something. Like I had like no idea what's happening. I was just like probably running around. I probably didn't even make progress or anything. I was just like running around on this island and like trying to play. But it's like such a vivid memory for me, this game. And yeah, so in terms of like series, we definitely played lots of Nintendo games back in the days, like from the original Game Boy up to the SNES, and then mostly what I grew up with was the N64.
Yeah.
Um, because that was the console when I could already like comprehend what actually is happening in the games. um, yeah,
Suppose not just like any N64 as well. Like similar to myself, you would have had the PAL N64.
yeah, oh yeah.
Which like I think it seems like totally normal when that's something that like you grow up with. And then you get into streaming and you're playing off, like, I know you do Wii Virtual Console, but you play the Japanese version. It's
Yeah.
like when you kind of get exposed to that, you see it as it's like completely like night and day. Uh,
Yes, it is horrible. I don't know why they could how they could do this, honestly, but yeah.
do you ever go back to the PAL version like every so often,
Oh,
or
yes. I did once a special stream where I did blindfolded 16-star PAL version without practice,
oh, without
and
practice, just going off like what you know for the Japanese version?
yeah, and then trying to, like, just slow down my strategies, and it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. Everything was delayed, input delay, sound delay. No, the biggest problem was that the game runs slower,
Hmm.
but the background music is still in the same speed as in
Yeah.
the normal game. Like, the sound is not delayed, and it just completely messed with my brain. I had, like, a headache for, like, a whole week, I think. It was insane.
Yeah,
So,
like
yeah.
it is certainly is like a massive shock to the system, and especially with how you do like the blindfolded stuff, you know. So like even like, you know, taking us to the blindfolded stuff. So you've been doing the blindfolded speedruns for years. So like you've been streaming for 7 years. Like I'm sure a lot of that has been um doing your blindfolded content, you know. And like it's safe to say that you've taken over that scene like altogether. You have like every single Mario 64 world record involved in that, and like even have your Guinness World Record as well, which for those watching you can see right behind Bubzia's shoulder. Like, which is, I think that's an incredible achievement as well, because obviously, you know, you have like speedrun.com world records, which, you know, is great, still count, but the Guinness World Record is like it's like the universally known, well renowned sort of thing. So based on that, then tell us how you got into blindfolded speedrunning, you know, from doing like Super Mario, Legend of Zelda, Metroid, all these other games that you've speedrun blindfolded. Like, how did the blindfold aspect of it come into play?
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting because I like, contrary to many beliefs, I think I actually started with blindfolded speedrunning before I was like speedrunning. So yeah, I just had like not really any kind of prior speedrunning knowledge before I started. I was just one day I remember I watched Run a Guy who did blindfolded Ocarina of Time like as a challenge run.
Mhm.
He did like 100% in the game, all items, everything. Not with like crazy fast strategies, but just from his game knowledge because he had like so much game time and game knowledge of Ocarina of Time. And he just was doing a challenge where he tried over multiple streams over like a month or something get all items in the game, and I saw it, and he used like all these like side hop, backflip, two side hops, and punch, another punch, angle turn, backflip, like all these cool setups, that you know from Ocarina of Time. And it was like, wow, this is like such a cool approach to gaming. It's like so new. And a couple of years before that, I have seen um some GDQ run of Super Mario 64. I think from like Cheese did like a 120-star run or something, probably. And that was like my first contact with speedrunning. Um, and yeah, I always loved SM64, and I played the game like, when you play it like casually multiple times. So you are like not really,
Yeah.
really bad at it, but you don't know any speedrun strats. And then like eventually you see like a speedrun on GDQ and you're like, whoa, they do crazy stuff. And then you try to like do a canonless for yourself at home, and like this was my knowledge that I had kind of before I started blindfolded. Because yeah, as I watched Runner Guy doing Ocarina of Time, I one day that was like in like, I don't know, 2015, 2016 or so. And then like 1 or 2 years later, I was in university at that time, and I was one day just like really bored. So I was like, maybe I should try to play something blindfolded. Like, who knows? It's like I always thought like these are like all these god gamers probably need like the god skills and stuff, and I was just like a normal dude. So I just tried to have fun, and like I got 1 star on the first day, and I was like it was like such a cool feeling. Like, whoa, this is like crazy. This is working, and I was like really proud of that. And then I just like did more and more stars eventually, and yeah, that's how it all came rolling. And since then, I'm doing it since 7 years already now.
That's brilliant. Like, absolutely love that because like it's just like a cool thing that it's like something you seen somebody do, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm bored one day. I'm gonna just go ahead and give this a go, and then it just stuck. And like 7 years on, here you are.
Yeah.
Like that's incredible. Like so what about like the other games that you've done blindfolded? Like, was that just the sort of thing that you like these other series of games, or was it just the sort of thing where it was like here's another challenge for me to do? Because I noticed as well for September you've
Mhm,
had like a lot of challenges, like particularly with Smash Brothers as well. So
mhm.
like, so tell us about the other games that you have speedrun blindfolded, like, and what sort of the inspiration behind that was, if it's any different.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix because after I finished SM64, like that was the only game I ever knew a speedrun of in the first place. So I didn't really even know how other speedruns looked like. Um, and yeah, as I said, I wasn't particularly a good speedrunner or anything. I didn't know like many strats or any glitches in other games or stuff. So after I beat SM64 for the first time, I I stopped kind of. I stopped with SM64 like
Mhm.
entirely for like at least a year or two. It was like my goal to beat the game blindfolded, and then I just yeah, I didn't care much. I moved on, but it was so much fun, this whole process of learning it, to like create the setups, create the routes, and like because that's what still to this day is like the most important and most fun thing to me in this whole hobby. That like you have it's like a logical puzzle. Like you have a game, like no matter what game you throw at me, you'll have to like dissect it, try to like, okay, what do I have as options, how can I go from A to B, what can I do to make this consistent, and nowadays also fast. That was not so much the focus back in the days, but so yeah, I basically was just very interested to see what other cool projects I can find. And back in the days, I was invited, like on one of my first few streams already. One other blindfolded speedrunner found my Twitch channel on like day one, where I had like zero viewers, but like instantly it was Cartoon24. He ran lots of blindfolded games in the past. For example, Ocarina of Time, Donkey Kong Country, Portal, even and stuff. Like he's a
Oh
very
wow.
very like well established member in the blindfolded community. And yeah, he found me and he was like, "Dude, we have a Discord. Come join us. Like we are like a couple of dudes blind who are like interested in blindfolded runs." And yeah, I joined the Discord. There were like 10 people in there or something. Nowadays there are like more than 500.
Oh
So it
wow.
really grew over the time.
Yeah. So like you definitely got in there like at the right time. Like, so it's safe to say that,
Yeah,
you're one of like the original blindfolded speedrunners in that sense. Like,
yeah. Like I like they had established like a tiny group already, and then I joined like a tiny bit later. After they like, I think like a year later after they made the whole thing.
mhm.
But yeah, I was pretty close still to the beginning of the whole community there. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think
Um,
that's a good thing as well about like, the doing everything blindfolded. Like, it is like, well, obviously it's relearning the game in a different way. So, you're it's almost like as if you're playing it for the first time, like every single time. Like, I know when I watch your streams, it's like it's just like a second language to you at this point, because
yeah.
because you've learned everything so long. But then the thing I find like the most incredible about it is that you can run the game blindfolded quicker than most people can run it not blindfolded. Like that
Yeah.
is itself incredible. And like so like okay, so tell us actually about your 120 star blindfolded run, because
Mhm.
obviously that was the big one. Obviously,
That
like,
was the
in the
big
last
one,
few
yeah.
months it's been 16, 0, and 1. But like, was the 120 like a one and done? Was that like a big project for the time, just to be like, okay, we can do these categories, but let's do the whole thing and see, because I imagine like there was I mean, I'm guessing there was like at least a year of work to go into that, surely, because of how big a thing, how much there is to remember. Because I'm sure there's enough to
Yeah.
remember for the smaller categories, but like, what was your time for that? If I remember correctly, I want to say, was it? I've got 7 or 11 hours in my head.
It is 11 hours
11
and
hours, yeah.
22 minutes, yeah.
That's,
So 11.5 hours.
how good was the feeling of actually completing that? Because
Oh, it was very good.
I'm sure it
Very,
wasn't
very
the
good.
first try that you had.
No, it was the third try actually.
Third? Oh
Like,
wow.
yeah, I did because this is such a big undertaking, like an 11-hour run, and I just didn't had like it's hard to find in everyday life 11 hours where you can just sit down and play a game
True.
like next to work and everything. So I like tried to my approach was more that like I focused really hard on practice, and then like I did like this one attempt maybe per month, and then
Mhm.
I went back to practice for like another month or so just to like make sure that I can actually finish it. But yeah, no, it was a long time. I started the 120 project in beginning of 2021,
Mhm.
and the run was finished in May 2022. So it was like
Wow.
1.5 years of prep every day, like practicing, memorizing, making strats,
Yeah,
and mm,
it's amazing that you were able to just keep it up and still have that enjoyment for what you were doing
yeah,
as well.
I
Because
think
like,
that was a big part from why 120 star was so cool because nowadays, for example, as you said, I grind 16 star a lot, and I even when I personally think it's a much bigger ambition and is a much bigger achievement than 120 star will be, like it is it is the same thing you play, but you optimize it.
yeah,
You optimize it for speed, and you do the same thing over and over, and try to gain like maybe a second here or like half a second here, and that's like, wow, I saved half a second. It's at this level of optimization. But 120 star was unknown territory. Like it was completely new, completely fresh, and that was the same like what I explained earlier. Like this excitement of there's a new logical puzzle to solve.
mhm,
Like there was like I have done at the time 70 stars already, so there was like 50 new stars to route, and these stars were like exponentially more difficult than everything previous to that. So because it was 100 coins, it was red
of
coins,
course.
it was like complex stuff, and yeah, it just became like this super cool like star by star. Every single star that I did new was like a new challenge that I had to approach,
Mhm.
and that was just really fun. And I think that's what mostly kept the motivation going. Um, at least until I got all 120 stars, and then yeah, just out of spite of my chat, I said like I could probably do it in one session, uh, because people were not believing me,
No,
and
of course.
then
Like,
we spent another I don't know 7 months to practice it all just to do it in one session.
well, do you know what? That's the good thing about that is that like, chat they encouraged that they kind of kept you going. Now, even if it was out of spite for them, it's still it's still like it turned into like an incredible thing. Like and I obviously like the proof is there. Like obviously right behind you, like with your Guinness World Record, and that's something that like will probably never be broken because who would do that?
Yeah, I
Like
mean, I
who has a
do
year to go and like practice that?
I do think it will be broken eventually. I mean, I personally want to break it still very
Mhm.
soon, eventually, hopefully, if I find time.
Yeah, of course. Like
But
it's
I mean, nothing will last forever for sure. Like one day there will be someone who will beat all the records that I have now. I'm very sure of it. But
mm,
I mean, that's the life of speedrunning.
oh for
It's
sure, 100%.
it's
At
just
least
enjoy
yeah,
the moment
and
and
at
be
least you'll have
happy with
had
what
them
you
for as
have.
long as you've had as well. Like
Yeah.
so like based on that, then do you feel like you can play the game normally, not blindfolded with like the normal speedrun and strats, or is it very
Hmm.
much a sort of thing where it's like I'm so used to doing it the way I do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a big meme in my stream because whenever I play visually, I start to really, really be bad. Like I'm really bad when I play visually. Like I literally, I think I tried like a no reset 16 star run, and I could not beat my blindfolded time with eyes.
No way.
So it's just like the I think the biggest difference is that I don't know visual strategies because I
Mhm.
never learned them. Because when you practice for visual speedruns, you sit down on Usamune and like boot up Aulus or something, and then like you practice Aulus for
Yeah.
I don't know until you get it a couple of times. But like that's something I've never done really. I've just focused on blindfolded like all this time. So what I have done is I watch lots of other speedrunners. So I have really good movement with Mario, and I have extremely good understanding of the physics and the game. So I am very much able to like play very well, but like I don't know the strategies. I just know how they look. So if you just try to replicate something just based off of how it looks, it usually doesn't work out as it should.
Yeah.
Um, but I think if I would actually sit down, and that's something I want to try also after the 16-star grind, I think if I would sit down and actually learn visual strats, I could become pretty good pretty fast. Because I mean, I once did it already, and within 1 day of practice, I got like an 18-minute time in 16
Oh
star.
wow. Well,
So
yeah, that says it
that's
all.
yeah. I think I don't know. I think with like a week of practice or so, I could go to like a 16 or 17 at
Mhm.
least. So
Yeah, I think as well, like the advantage in terms of that you have is the fact that obviously with blindfolded speedrunning, you're going off a count in your head and everything is so specific. Like you know exactly like what frames you're hitting a wall kick at, for example.
mm,
Um and to do that blindfolded, like and obviously like you know yourself that when you're doing it visually, it's no different. It's just doing it in a different way, but like the input
yes,
still
yes,
stayed the
yes.
same. So it's like you've got the movement of like doing it blindfolded. It's like having an extra sense, in a sense when you go back to doing it. Like it's so that would definitely be exciting to see because I seen yesterday that was it like you were doing like a 120 playthrough, was it? Or
Kind of, yeah, kind
yeah.
of. You could call it that. A very, very scuffed playthrough, yeah.
But yeah, like I think as well, like I mean, something that I feel that people don't really understand is that it is like what we touched on before, like playing the game for the first time and like being able to like optimize things because so you would do like a fair bit of randomizer as well, and I know you do that like visually because I think doing it blindfolded would just be like chaos upon chaos, like for sure.
Mhm,
But you know yourself with like randomizer that um it's like playing the game for the first time every single time, and like
mhm.
there are ways to optimize it by going in. Like I do like a lot of randomizer myself, and I have so many people who like they love to watch it and they're just like this looks amazing, and some people even say I would like to play this. Can you show me how? And I'm like, of course, but you will hate yourself. You will hate every second of this because it's sort of like so like what I find this funny as well because like what I think of base game is what most people think of randomizer, and it's like a
Mhm,
very much a mutually hateful relationship to tell you the
yeah.
truth. So like stepping aside then from Mario 64, so you've done like other games as well. So I think was the most recent game, now this could be going back like a maybe a good few months to a year at this
Mhm.
point, but the most recent game that I've seen outside of Mario 64, you tried Elden Ring?
Elden Ring I have tried, but my PC wasn't strong enough at the
Ah,
time,
I
so
see.
I had to abandon the project, but I did Dark Souls right after.
Dark Souls, yes, as well. I remember
Yeah.
that. So in terms of those games, like just from a blindfolded perspective, they seem like a lot more RNG heavy than
Mhm.
like doing like a linear game as such, like Mario or Link or anything or Zelda, I should say,
Yes.
sorry, or anything like
Yes,
that.
yes.
So how then do you learn to do a game such as like Dark Souls or Elden Ring?
Yeah, it's like the learning for it is really pretty similar. It's very much the same approach that like the basic premise is always that you have a starting point A and a goal B. And
Hmm.
like you want to somehow get from A to B, and then you like divide it to like smaller sub problems. So
Yep.
if you want to reach that wall, what do I need to go do to get there? And then like you start to think, okay, there's maybe like another tree in the middle. First I go to the tree. How do I get to the tree? Then like the tree is like the first sub problem. And then from the tree you go to the wall. And then like, you divide it down to like very small sections and then try to like chain it together to make like one fluid strategy to like traverse games. And it really doesn't matter what game and what options you have. This is the basic premise that you can like apply every time, because you have difference in movement options, of course. Like some games just don't have any normalized movement. But for that, again, you can do other things. You can count the background music, for example. And if there's no background music, you can count, I don't know, the footsteps or something, which,
Yeah.
for example, we do in Dark Souls. Like because Dark Souls has a very, very scuffed camera, probably even much worse than Mario 64, which is honestly, I don't know how they made that,
Yeah,
but
that's an
um,
achievement in itself.
yeah. And then you have other options because of that. Because it's a different game, you probably have other options as well. Like in Mario, you don't have any normalized movement that's forward. Basically,
Yeah,
you can do backflips. You can very much align yourself well on walls and stuff. But like if you want to go fast forwards, you kind of need to count something. Like you need to count the music or something, because you can do a long jump, but the long jump always varies in distance depending on how long exactly you hold on the stick and stuff.
yeah,
And Dark Souls, for example, you press B. There's one button. You press B, and he rolls a fixed distance forward. You know, it's like super nice for blindfolded, because you can just like, okay, 5 rolls up, 5 rolls right, 5 rolls up, and like you can like, you lose something because the camera, for example, sucks. The enemies are RNG and it's hard, but you also gain something. Like the movement has maybe like a roll that is normalized, and like you just trade things off, and then try to
yeah.
route from A to B, and then from B to C, and then eventually the whole game.
So then would that sort of strategy apply to like any game that you're doing blindfolded? Like just like you say, A to B, and well, not to generalize it by saying and figure out everything in between, but like it's looking out for those like audio cues for like the how far forward you'll go by holding the
Mhm.
stick for 4 beats, for example. Like is it that just applies like across the board?
I think so, yeah, because that's like the basic problem solving technique, right? Like if you have a big problem, just divide it to like sub problems
Hmm.
and like try to solve them first. And no matter what game you have, like in Pokemon, you can do the same. Like, okay, I want to beat the game. Then what do you need to do in order to beat the game? I need to beat all 8 gym leaders first.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's start small. How do I get to the first gym leader? And then like, okay, how what let's break that also down. Like how do I get to my first Pokemon? How do I get then to the, I don't know, the next story? And then how do I get to the gym? And like you can just break it down smaller and smaller. And then just like you start, what I used to do, especially with games, is I started writing down like all the movement, all the strategies in like a document, and then like just like start in the beginning. Uh, for example, until the first gym. Like let's say that as an example because that's easy. And then I started writing like, okay, I need to go 5 steps to the right, 6 up, and then like, okay, I'm not sure if this is like working consistently because maybe there's RNG. Like I
Hmm.
don't know, maybe I can die here. Then I just like, okay, rinse and repeat. Start from the beginning, redo the steps that you did. If it's working again, it's probably consistent. If it's like the same inputs to this different thing, then like, okay, maybe you should try something else and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Yeah, that's it's an interesting insight into like the sort of strategy in terms of blindfolded, because I'm sure like the amount of people who like, for example, the amount of new people you would get come into your streams all the time and think, well, for one, think, oh my god, how is he doing this? Whereas
Hmm.
the answer is as simple as it just takes practice. To be fair,
Yeah.
but like I don't think people are going to see it and be blown away by the fact that you're blindfolded and playing the game better than like most people who don't do it blindfolded. And then of course you get people mainly on TikTok who would just be like, "Oh no, it's a see-through blindfold. He can see through it." It's just like, sure, sure.
Yeah.
You try
You
doing
know, I,
this like visually and then come back.
yes, yes. No, it's I mean it's totally understandable. I think that people, because it's like something so different that they usually don't see in
Hmm.
gaming in general. Like especially the more it goes into high level, like where I am now in SM64, where the movement, it literally looks like visual in some parts, or like it literally ties visual strategies in terms of speed in many parts as well. So if it's such a fluid gameplay and you put someone there with a blindfold on, like I can understand that like someone who maybe not even, because especially nowadays on like TikTok and all these short form content,
Hmm.
like people who are not really into speedruns even get recommended something like this potentially.
Yeah.
So imagine you have never seen a speedrun of Super Mario 64, and then they get a random video of me, for example, doing like logless blindfolded in like 15 seconds. It's like, yeah, oh, this is not possible for sure. So I think like I don't mind the doubters and haters like at all, actually, because I can understand, honestly. Like it's I think it's fair.
Yeah, that's the thing. But then obviously, like on the flip side of that, like that was certainly not the attitude that you took going into it. You watched it and were blown away and be like, I'm gonna do this. Like it's
Yeah.
and then it just kind of worked. Like, I mean,
But the other aspect, there are also viewers who see this for the first time, and they are exactly like this. They're like, "Wow, this is so cool. This is so interesting," and like they do believe that it's real and all. So
mhm.
it goes both ways. I think it's
Yeah,
really nice.
absolutely. And do you see like a lot of people like come out to you and be like, okay, I want to do this blindfolded, or do you see like a lot of people who are actually giving it a go because they've seen your content?
Yes, actually, yes. Especially since I released a new tutorial
Mhm.
for Super Mario 64. Like, because, getting into Blindfolded is always very difficult, I would say, because, like, there's not many resources. We are still a niche within a niche. Like,
Mhm.
even for speedrunning, it's very often hard to find, like, resources to like get started and all. But in blindfolded, it's even more. It's like, yeah, what do I even do to start? Like, because people first need to understand like how it works and all the setups and all of that. So now when I created the tutorial in SM64, it was like lots of people started doing it because they watched my content already, or like they came to see what I do, and then they were like, "Oh, this is cool. I want to try it myself, but I don't know how." And that gave them like kind of the jump start that was needed.
Mhm. Of course.
So yeah, I think if we would have more resources in other games as well, it would probably also help. But yeah, it's just very time consuming and hard to create resources like that. And we are not that many who do this in the first place. So
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
'Cause
I think this will come with time, like in history. Maybe in like 20 years there will be more.
yeah, because I definitely can see it being like, such an inspiring thing to do because it is so different and it's a new challenge. And even if like you be the best at the game, but how well do you really know the game? Like, because like there's a difference between like knowing something and it just being pure muscle memory. Because I think when you do like pure muscle memory, it's like like where to be and when, what to do and when, but you don't know everything that's around you and stuff. And I think what I
Yes.
quite like about watching yours is that like, well, it's safe to say that you have invented 90% of the new strats because you're like the top blindfolded speedrunner. So then how do you come about learning these new strats? Like, as I've seen a lot of your strats, especially since you're going for the
Hmm.
sub 20 minutes for 16 star. And I've seen a lot of your strats change over time. Like, how do you come about this? Is it just the sort of thing where you get like bad RNG and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this actually might be quicker? Or is it just something that you have to actually properly workshop?
Yeah, it really depends. It is a wild mix of many different factors. Like the biggest one is of course if I fail it in a run and I'm not satisfied of its consistency, then I try to go back into the lab and like try to figure
Hmm.
out first of all why it fails. Second of all, can I make it better, more consistent, or can I make it faster? That's nowadays the big issue. And very often if I try to find something new, it's the result of exactly that. Like I failed it a couple of times in runs, I'm very not satisfied, then I sit down for what happened with MIPS, for example. Like I failed MIPS like 3 times in a row with my old strategy, and I was like so done with it. So I just sat down for like 6 hours or so, like 2 whole streams, and we just did MIPS all day. And eventually we just like try and error. Like we just go ahead, try this thing, try everything, try this camera, try this setting, and then eventually we'll find something that maybe is better and works.
Yeah.
And what's also very funny, very often, lots of new strats, at least ideas, come like randomly from like a random chat message.
Oh.
They are like, "Why don't you try this?" And very often it's me like, "No, no, that's not working. That's stupid." And then I try it and like, "Oh wait, but if we do this with this camera," and then suddenly we have like the perfect strat. Like many strats developed like this. That like it was a random chatter. Like even like first time chatters in the stream, like super random, and they come up with like really good ideas because probably I have like this focus on like, okay, what is possible blindfolded. I have this like tunnel vision, but they come from outside and they bring like the fresh ideas that I wouldn't even consider. Um, which yeah is really nice. So I'm always very happy for suggestions in chat.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's nice that like your chat are your eyes in terms of that. Like
Yeah.
obviously like Now, in a literal sense, they see what you don't see, of course, but at the same time, they're able to kind of see the surroundings of things and be like, okay, well, if you maybe did this, then it might kind of, it could, like, obviously it's all in theory, but like, then at the same time, think about how many things have worked in terms of that. Like, that's incredible, I think. And would you say as well that like a lot of blindfolded strats, or some anyway, might be quicker than visual strats? Or is there that
Um,
possibility? Is there?
quicker is hard. Quicker is very hard, especially because SM64 is also so optimized in visual speedruns.
Hmm.
Like it is very very hard to get to the visual speed, especially in like single star. But I think many of the strats are getting very close at least. So
Yeah.
we maybe lose like 1 or 2 seconds in like a normal star compared to visual at this point, and I think that's already huge. Like that is very crazy to think about. And in other games where it's not so, because Mario 64 is also very heavily movement based. It's a very movement based platformer game,
Yeah.
right? In other games where it's like more standardized movement, for example, let's say Pokemon, you only have the D-pad. One click means you move one tile. There's not much time to save with movement, but it's more like execution and knowing the values of the HP and all of that.
Yeah.
Like in there, it's much easier to actually even match visual speedruns in terms of speed, because yeah, it's like mostly execution heavy. But yeah, Mario 64 is hard. It's very very movement based, but we're getting there. It's getting very close.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely something that I like about your streams particularly, is because the way you do it is like in terms of like you take a good balance between practicing running strats, learning your new strats live on camera, but also like whilst you're speedrunning, you seem to remain calm. Like I have never seen anybody as calm as you, especially like you. Like I seen this the other day. You were on like you were going into we had MIPS and you were about to go into Dart Docks, and you were on, I think, 18.5 minute pace. That was your best possible time on your splits, and all of a sudden drifted a little bit too far left and lost MIPS, and then that was the run. Um, but even still, you kind of were just like, ah, oh, right, okay, back to the lab. But it was just there was that element of frustration, but like at the same time, it was just kind of it was there and gone in an instant. So like, is there a secret to you being able to stay as like calm and collected as you do, or are you just naturally that way? And also, is there like an element of not being able to see chat whilst you're doing the runs too that helps that possibly?
I mean, it's difficult to answer, honestly. I think I'm generally pretty calm as a person as well, but yeah, I don't know. Like I just try to approach it like logically, like
Hmm.
if you mess up a strat and you get frustrated, like why did it work? Like if you think about it in the big picture, it was probably something that you messed up yourself. So there's no point in getting angry. It's more like important to figure out what you did wrong and
Hmm.
like try to learn from it, like try to learn from the mistakes. I think that was always like my approach, because that's also, I think, like the secret how I got like over time better with the years, because I like kept analyzing what I made wrong and then just try to learn from it,
Hmm.
instead of just like, yeah, it didn't work 10 times, let me try an 11th time and bonk my head against the wall again the same way and miss it again. So I don't know. I think I really like, especially blindfolded speedruns and speedruns in general, because it has a very like logical connection to like, yeah, learning, logical thinking, and like execution. It's like this triangle for me
Yeah.
that like, and if you think about these things and like the big picture, and what I think helps me personally to not be like too angry. I of course get also angry if I miss like a world record pace to bad RNG or like to BLJs at
Hmm.
the end,
Of course.
because that's something I cannot really influence. Those are the frustrating ones, when there's something that I can nothing for. Like if I've said it recently, like if I am 2 minutes ahead of world record and I fail standing left side, like in the last stage of the game, and I just die. Like it happened now multiple times in on sub 20 pace that I failed left side, for example. Like yeah, it sucks, but it was me who mistimed the A press, so I can probably go back to practice and like improve it and like try again. But if I lose the world record to Bowser jumping 5 times in a row because it's a coin flip, like that is frustrating. That's nothing I can do for, but that's just a game,
Of
and
course.
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think, in terms of like Bowser 3, him jumping and not running at you, I think that's the most I've ever seen you frustrated at it, just
Yeah,
because
it's
it's like you're so close and it's just not playing ball. Like,
yep,
and that's just,
exactly. You
yeah,
you played perfect for 20 minutes and then yeah.
and then it just decides, no, you're not getting this sub 20 today.
Yep.
But
And
yeah,
I don't know why, but I'm especially unlucky these days. Like I cannot remember a period where I got so many jumps from Bowser than like recently. Every single run I get like 3 or 4 jumps. That's insane. Like
yeah, it must just know. The game just must know that, like, well, it
mm,
doesn't want you to move on from 16 star once you hit your sub
yep.
20. Which, speaking of which, what then is your next plan after hitting, because I know obviously you've got like the Smash Brothers that you're trying at the moment, and do I remember, if I remember correctly, did I see Banjo Kazooie there as well in your list?
For a little visual playthrough first. I
Oh,
haven't played the
visual.
game in a long time. I want to
Mm-hmm.
see if I can get some of the puzzle pieces, or how they call jigglies, I think.
Jiggies, yeah.
Jiggies, yeah. So I wanted to just see if I can get some of them blindfolded. Any percent is probably too rough because I do remember the game also had an awful camera.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very much like, so it's, I think it's not that it's like constantly behind. It's kind of hard to say, but the camera is like very, very segmented, similar to
okay.
like, in fact, it would probably be, I think the best way to liken it would be to Shotgun Mario. Very
Mm,
similar, where it's just like segmented into quarters, and it's
okay,
just
okay.
kind of, you can't really be precise. And I think a full playthrough of Banjo Kazooie takes like anywhere from 2.5 to 4 hours, and that's for
Mhm.
100%, to be fair. But like any
Okay.
percent, I still think it would be quite. It'd be an interesting one to see, because like obviously these linear games, I would say Banjo is probably a bit more linear than Mario, but like maybe a less RNG
Mhm.
sort of related. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
as I said, I haven't played it in like so long, so I just want to like play through it and see kind of what is going on with the game.
yeah.
I don't have big plans to like do it a thing, but
Hmm.
yeah. After 16 star, I have like lots of tiny projects that I want to finish off. As you said, Smash, I have lots of projects I want to do, like break the targets in Melee as well.
Mm, yeah.
Some classic mode in Smash 64. But after 16 star, I do want to go back to 70 star for one last world record.
Hmm.
Because like now, if I finish off 16 star, if I get to sub 20, I'm like done. Like that's it. I cannot and will not improve it anymore. I think in my lifetime. So I will be done with that. And since I improved so many strats now already, if I just go back to 70, and like I can probably improve it quite fast.
Hmm.
So I want to also like go the whole, like, because we in Blindfolded also have 31 star as a category and 50 star.
Oh, are they? Yeah.
Um,
So like the extension's been added onto the thing now, or are they
yes,
always there?
yeah, because it's like the jump from 16 to 70 star in Blindfolded is really huge. It's like
Hmm.
70 star is a very, very difficult category and also long.
Yep.
So to make it a bit more beginner friendly, we decided to include 31 star, which is just no MIPS clip.
Yep.
Um, and 50 star, which is no tippy basically. Like you have to
Yeah.
open the 50 star door the normal way. And both of these categories are very nice. They are like really cool to run in Blindfolded because yeah, 70 star, it is a like, if you start out, or like, I mean, the world record is 1.5 hours long, and 16 star is 20 minutes long. That's like 5 times the content, or like even more. And
Hmm.
there's so much memorization that you need to do. And there's also lots of very difficult stars that you need to do. So just to lessen this jump, the gap for new players, we decided to include the other categories as well. And I just want to kind of go through all of them, like start with 31, improve the record the last time, go to 50 star, improve the record the last time, go to 70 star, improve it,
Hmm.
and then maybe go to 120 star if I find time and improve that. And then I have no idea what I do with the game anymore because I am running out of content with this. But
Yeah, maybe
I have
even
lots
just
of
like
I
add
have
like a 45 in or something, or a
yeah, yeah,
15.
yeah.
Just add all of like the category extensions into Blindfolded and just kind of
Honestly, all signs, all boxes, all animals.
all trees. Just keep the legacy going. Like, yeah, I think because I do remember, like, I think it might have been the end of last year. I remember you saying something like, I can't remember, you got like a new like world record. It might have been the 1 or 0 star. I'm not too sure. But then it was a kind of like, okay, that's Mario done. Going into the new year,
Mm,
it's going to be new things. But nearly
yep,
9 months
that was
into the
zero
new
star.
year, oh, it
Very
was
sure.
zero
Yeah.
star. Yeah, but like obviously then the sub 20 came in. So do you sort of think it's like something that's kind of hard to like leave behind whenever that becomes like a potential reality? Because obviously, in terms of like getting these records, optimizing everything and going forward, it's quite a long time. So not to say that it's like kicking the can down the road, but like once it becomes like a reality that, okay, I've done everything I can do, is it a sort of thing where it's like, but I don't want to like let it go, there's definitely more that can be done? Or does the idea of moving on to other projects and other games for like a prolonged period of time, is that like an exciting thing?
Um. Well, it's a double-edged sword here, because like for me personally, I really love SM64. I've spent now years learning all the physics and the gameplay and everything. So I really like to run it and route it at this point. But like as you said, I know that eventually it will end, which is not gonna happen soon for sure. I still have a
Mhm.
couple of years easy, but I when I have like done everything I can, I am very, very excited to move to new projects as well. Like I have a whole list of projects that I want to do, and I just don't have the time because I keep playing SM64 all day. So like in terms of like other ideas and content and blindfolded speedruns I want to do, I'm good for probably my lifetime already. And there's new
Okay.
games releasing every month as well, so there's like enough to do. And for me, that's very exciting because I like to learn new things, as I said. Like
Yeah.
that's the exciting part for me. A bit more of a problem is for the community, of course, because most of them are here for SM64 because this is the game they love and they watch. Um, so whenever I branch out to like other games, I have done it before. Like for example, when I did Breath of the Wild, um, I did Blindfolded Breath of the Wild for like I think half a year straight without streaming any
Oh
Mario.
wow.
And like yeah, it was okay, of course. Like the community definitely, I think many of them at least, I managed to make interested not only in Mario but in Blindfolded in general.
Yeah.
So they see, okay, this is yeah, they see the whole idea of this is another logical puzzle. Let's try to solve it together and like let's see how this whole thing develops. So I think we would all have fun also with other things, especially like if we mix in some like very similar adjacent content like Mario Odyssey, for example. Like I know many SM64 runners also are very interested in Mario Odyssey,
Yeah, that's true.
and me myself too. So that's also something that I always wanted to do, and probably will like try something like this, and then like always try to find something new that's fun and all. Like so, I'm not very worried, but it always has positives and negatives.
Oh
So
yeah, absolutely. And especially because like from like a streamer perspective, like you mentioned that like a lot of your community are there for Mario 64. Like something that I always like say to people is that like, you know, people they come there for the game, but they stay for you. But obviously that's not the case with everything. And especially, with like a viewership as large as yours, obviously it does become relative to that. Like, it's like sort of, let's say, you have like 600 people in a stream, for example. It's like how many are there for Mario? Because how many people are lurking just to like
mhm.
watch it's part of their day. But then if it's something else, it's kind of like, oh well, I'm not interested. But obviously, like from your level, it's like it takes on like a whole entire perspective. And I know it's important to not like kind of fixate on those types of numbers, but of course at the same time, like as a streamer, when you have like a sort of full on schedule, things like that, it is definitely something to like bear in mind, of course. Like, and in terms of the numbers and stuff, like, is that something that you do take like note of, or is it just like, I'm just doing this, I have, this is my routine, I'm just doing this for me, I enjoy this, and because obviously, like you've been streaming for so long, it's kind of like it is an entirely different perspective than someone like for myself and other people I know who've only been doing this for the last year or so.
Hmm.
So, like in terms of the numbers, is it a sort of thing that you do have an idea of, or is it like kind of nah, it is what it is?
Kind of. So, like how it is for me, I mostly, especially within the realm of SM64, I usually just do whatever I feel like and I have fun with.
Mhm.
Um, I noticed that like the viewership, as you said, like if I switch to other games, it will go down for sure. Like that's something that's just the reality of things. Like people are mostly there for SM64, for example. But like the core audience will be there if that whatever you do is still exciting, you know? So like if I play a new game, for example, Blindfolded, I tried out for the first time and like even if I like find it interesting, but not like super interesting, but like chat is absolutely like saying like, okay, this is boring to watch, you know? That's like, okay, then in that case, I would definitely consider to like just do something else because I have so many projects that like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can easily switch that out and like do something else that's also fun for me, but also fun for the others. So in terms of numbers, I do look like I do have an understanding of it for sure because uh especially like in the past recent years the numbers grew of course in my channel, like my channel blew up quite a bit and just yeah, it's like additional income to the channel that I now also use to like pay for example my video editors and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I just completely started now to like be okay, I just play freaking I don't know Candyland on the Game Boy Advance, then all day. I mean, my community would probably like it still, at least the core members. But
Mhm.
yeah, I it would just like slow down the channel a lot. And I think I just have so many cool projects that are exciting for everyone that like I don't really worry too much about it in the big picture.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good thing to have, especially with it doing blindfolded, because like, say for example, a game comes out on release day, like it blows up on Twitch, like
Yeah.
quite across the board. But like, if you see somebody's like doing it blindfolded, it's kind of like, okay, this is like a new niche, and I suppose like, it does open up the doors for doing so much. Like, so it's like obviously the fact you've got all these little projects in mind, if like a lot of it surely is just trial and error. Like if one thing doesn't work, it's like, okay, well I have umpteen number of things that I could be doing. Like it's just one bad day out of like a full year, for example. So it's a good strategy to have, because I've definitely noticed with a lot of streamers in the past that like sometimes they feel like pigeonholed into just playing like the one game, like whether
Hmm.
it be like particularly within SM64 actually as well, because that's what they become known for, that's what they get their following for. And if they play something else because they want to, then it's just kind of like the viewership drops, and it's easy to get into your own head about that. And I think that obviously comes at like such a smaller level with a smaller community and things. But like, I think it just must just take patience or something. Because like you say, you've been doing this for 7 years, and you've been fortunate enough to be able to do all these different games. And obviously, like your channel just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Especially, I think would you say that like being on TikTok now has definitely had like an impact on that, going on to like rolling over onto Twitch?
Yeah, it does. Oh, absolutely. Like I do really enjoy that I can stream there as well, honestly. I often see people like I see regulars in TikTok's chat as well, but I often see people, for example, in Twitch or YouTube are like, "Oh, hey, I'm here from TikTok."
Mhm.
I just switch to the like I don't know, like the landscape form, for
Yeah.
example, or something. So I've definitely seen that in the past. I have to say.
Yeah, because like I liked your whenever you first came onto TikTok a number of months ago, I particularly liked your content on TikTok in order to be able to stream on TikTok. And it was just like, I'm doing a
Ah, yeah.
one blindfolded star per follower until I get 1,000 followers. And like that was brilliant. Like just like it was
Yeah.
very engaging, and obviously like people knew who you were, and it gave people a chance to get involved and get that engagement to just be like, can I see this star? And if you got to it, you got to it, and if you didn't, you didn't. But like at the same time, it it would have kept people coming back, being like, okay, day two of asking for this star, for example. Like it's
Yes, yes.
so that was good. And it obviously like it was excuse me. Obviously, it was something that you got like a very quick sort of following on, and like it turned out quite well. And I think being able to stream on these multiple platforms is definitely good. Because am I right in saying at one point did you give streaming on, was it Twitter or Instagram ago? I feel like it was Twitter.
Yes, both I
Oh,
tried
both. Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
but both didn't really work out as well as I would like to.
yeah,
So yeah, when this whole multi-streaming became allowed on Twitch, I yeah, the first thing I started was streaming also on YouTube because that was something I was always interested in. I have actually already streamed on YouTube a tiny bit before, like I had like any following on Twitch as well. And I because each platform has their positives and negatives, and on YouTube, I really love that like your streams are automatically saved. You have a library of all your streams, and you have a basically archive of everything you do automatically. You don't need to export anything. You don't need to edit anything. It's just there. So that's really really useful for me because I very often look back at like, okay, how did I mess up the run yesterday? How did I make this strat and so? And that's really cool. And on top of that, like people on that watch my YouTube channel don't necessarily watch my Twitch channel,
yeah,
and vice versa. Because since I started uploading like videos and like not only PBs, let's say, from my speedruns, but like actually like edited content, like lots of new people came from that too, but they don't have this connection to streaming yet. But when they see that I'm live on YouTube, they are much more likely to like, yeah, join and like check it out. And then I always say that's why I also stream on TikTok. Like TikTok is again a whole different new audience. Like it's much more, as I said, people who maybe have not even seen speedrunning, but it's something completely new for them. Like
yeah,
it's just a gaming novelty that like people play this blindfolded. So there again, it's a whole different new set of eyes onto blindfolded speedrunning, and that's like my main goal, honestly. Like I just want to like make this whole niche more popular for everyone so that the like community benefits from it, that people know it. It's like because it's such a cool thing. I feel like it's a waste that it's like so unknown. It's such a cool little hobby to have. And yeah, I'm
yeah.
always very happy to just like promote it wherever I can. And TikTok definitely helped with that. And yeah,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I think that.
Instagram and Instagram and Twitter, as you said, I tried. With Instagram, maybe I didn't understand it correctly, but Instagram only streams to your followers and not like
Mhm,
on a general page,
yeah.
I think. So since I had a very new Instagram account, it had like no point to stream there really. And Twitter is interesting. Twitter was interesting because it did work. People enjoyed it that I streamed there because most of them used it as a okay, Bubzia is live. Let me open Twitch. Like it was a enhanced, crazy go live notification for them.
Yeah.
They could see a preview what I do in Twitter. They saw okay, he's playing Mario. Let me join on Twitch, and that was really good. That was half of the people though. The other half of the people was like, dude, I cannot stand that you are constantly on top of my notifications. Why does it tell me that you are live in my Twitter, dude? So it was like really exactly 50-50. I did like polls and stuff with my
Oh,
community, and
wow.
half the people hated it, half the people loved it. So I was just like, okay, I will just, you can find me on Twitch. I will just not bother the people. That's more important to me.
Yeah, for sure. And especially if there's like not really much to be gained off it, then it's probably easier
Yeah.
just to be, especially because I think streaming on the three platforms alone, that's like loads. Because like if you think about like it's three different sets of eyes on different, like you say, you have a different viewership on Twitch than you do to YouTube than you do to TikTok. And I think the good thing about TikTok as well is its discoverability. Especially because, for example, well, I think I'll give you myself an example. Like the first ever time I got exposed to Mario 64 speedrunning was through Ryucar.
Mhm.
I was scrolling through TikTok one day, just random. I'm very, very new to TikTok at this point. I think I only got TikTok like maybe the start of last year, end of 2022, whatever it was. Um, and I was like basically like a boomer in terms of getting TikTok. Like I was like 28 years old, first downloading TikTok. Like it was kind of like, people were kind of like,
Yeah.
Andy, what are you doing? but
No, I
so
know the feeling. I for the first time used TikTok when I started streaming on it, so it was very new for me.
mm, yeah, like I think when you get it at a certain age, you see all these people doing like different things. It's just like why? What is this? What content is these days? And this is like coming from like me. I was like, I was big into Vine back in the day. Now this was going back
Hmm.
about 10 years ago, but Vine was incredible. It was like the ultimate short form content, but also like ultimate brain rot at the same time. But at the
Hmm.
same time, like the discoverability on the short form content is like much better. So like whenever I first discovered Mario 64 speedrunning, it was just after I'd like replayed the game for God knows whatever time, and all of a sudden I see that there's speedrun things. I'm kind of like, okay, this is interesting. So because I watched this live, it just kind of filtered down from there, and then here we are today. Um, but like at the same time, like you say, people just might not really kind of know much about it. They might have liked a video at some point a few months ago, and then all of a sudden you come up on the FU or the For You page,
Hmm.
just as like a suggested live, and then it kind of just goes from there. And people do like, I think the thing about the important thing is about TikTok Live is that like, you know, you have like about like a 3 second window to be as engaging as possible in terms of what you do. And
Hmm.
obviously, like, for those who are watching, you can see the blindfold on your head.
Hmm.
Um, so obviously that's a kind of immediate eye grabber in a
Yeah,
really
I
ironic kind
noticed
of
it
way.
very much. It's very random with the viewership, especially with like spikes for me. But very often when I'm actually on a good run, that's when I like take the blindfold off, like I see that there is lots of people watching on TikTok even. Like when I practice and stuff, there's like a few people, maybe like the core people that like know me, but yeah, usually when I actually am on pace and they see, okay, something is going on, like this guy is blindfolded, there's a timer that is like green that's in the minus, is he on a run or something? And then I very often see like spikes in viewership there, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely it is a good one to have for sure. Like, it's just, and that's the thing. A lot of people start on TikTok and move over to Twitch, and obviously like Twitch is the core one, especially if you haven't done it for so long as well. And like the thing I like about Twitch as well is the fact that there's a lot more incentives for the viewers. Like
Hmm.
TikTok, you just watch kind of thing. You can't even like leave the screen without leaving the stream at all. But like obviously Twitch, if you're on mobile, you can kind of have it on in the background while you're doing other things. But like in
Hmm.
terms of the incentives, like one thing I like about yours is that for an X number of channel points, you can choose your blindfold. So
Hmm.
obviously
Yeah.
it's the sort of thing like, you have, I can see obviously there's one behind you there, the Mario blindfold. That's a pretty cool one.
Hmm.
How many other blindfolds like do you have that you use? I did see one, was it like a fluffy bear or something?
Yeah, I have a lot. I have actually like more than like 15 different ones, I think.
Nice.
But for the channel points, I only list like a few that are like actually comfortable, because I have also like meme blindfolds, like I don't know, this one here. It's like a anime girl. But like it's very uncomfortable because it's just like a piece of plastic
Yeah, I was gonna
where I
say it
have like
looked really
Pepe the
solid.
Frog, and this guy has like the eyeballs are actually like round. You can see it's like a thick
Yeah.
texture, and yeah, it just like pushes into your eyeballs, and it's very uncomfortable to
Oh,
wear
for
for longer
sure.
time. So in my channel reward, I only have like the few that are like actually comfortable, but I have like a lot of different types just for the memes.
Oh, of course, that as well in itself is important too. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's certainly is something that's like engaging and people quite like to see. Like I do something similar on mine, like with my hats. Like I have like
Mhm.
I don't know why. Like I did when I started streaming, I decided to just wear a hat on stream. I don't wear hats normally, but um, literally it was like, I think it was just like I looked at myself on camera, and this was like going back, like when my original setup was just like a shitty laptop,
Mhm.
and like it ran at like 3 frames per second or something like that, and it was just like nah. But I didn't like the way my head looked on camera, so it was just like no, I'm gonna wear a hat. And now I have like about 25 hats. So like I have like at the start of every stream, I have like a redeem, pick what hat I wear for the stream, because I'm not
Nice.
gonna sift through the fucking list and just be like,
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I think it's good. I think especially these days with content, like it's very important to be creative like this. Like you need something to like not even stand out, but just like have something new and fun for the viewers to like
yeah, just
be
like
there with
yeah,
you, you know?
a reason to keep people coming back. Like it's definitely like
Yeah, yeah,
an
yeah.
important thing, and I think as well you definitely have that. Even just like with your with your blindfolded speedrunning, because like for on the surface to some people it might look like it's the same thing every day, but like when you sort of like go beyond the surface a little bit, it's like you're constantly optimizing strats, you're constantly learning new things, and because you're so close to your ultimate goal, it's like kind of, you know, you're it's like you're at the climax of 16 star, for example, you know, that
Hmm.
kind of way, and it's like
Yes.
that in itself is engaging enough. Like, so that's like it's definitely a very good thing that you've got going there.
Yeah. But it's one thing I learned in the recent past with since the 120 star, right? Basically, that it's for streams and in general, it is very important that you have a big project that you kind of can work towards and that people can be part of the journey. Like this whole journey is much more important than like anything else you do. So now I started, for example, labeling like my streams with like, okay, day 115 of the 16 star grind or something.
Hmm.
And like that alone, I think if I analyzed it like from myself, I think that is something that really helped with my channel in general
Yeah,
because people like it is cool if I get the 70-star world record or something if I practice now for it. And that's the other thing. If I practice for it, for example, off stream, and I practice to get better off stream, and then I on stream I just do like run or two, and then like I get the new PB. That's for a viewer, I think not interesting. Like what I believe what many people are here for is the journey. You know,
yeah,
the struggle to okay, you start at nothing. How do I get to this crazy goal that you have at the end of the road? And that's why I don't play SM64 at all off stream anymore. Like nothing. I do all practice on stream. I do all routing on stream. I do everything on stream so that everyone can be like as much part of this whole journey as possible.
of course.
And people really like it. So I think that's the approach I'm also going to take in the future. Like if I have a big project, I will make sure to make like everyone as much part of it as possible, and that everyone can like also make like regular checkpoints for like new people that like haven't seen, for example, the first 50 days. I started making like little recap videos, for example, like okay, what happened? Like, did we get any new world record in that month and stuff? So that's something I recently learned for sure about like the whole content creation. That like this whole making speedrunning a like you often hear that like speedrunning back in the days was more like okay, you get world record and that's you are famous, you know.
Yeah,
That's how many big channels nowadays started out. But nowadays, speedrunning is just not that not that easy anymore. Like there's so many people who speedrun, and it's like you need something to like
yeah,
stand out and engage. And I think a journey, like a personal journey like this, is something that's very enjoyable to watch. Because if I look back at it, that's also what I watch on Twitch the most. Like I remember recently there was like a big challenge in like Trackmania, this like Deep Dip 2 it was called. It was like a big challenge map that was played for like multiple months by multiple people. And I have no idea about Trackmania. I mean I played it when I was like a kid, but I had like no idea about it. But just like seeing the same person struggle every day, getting a bit further, failing again, getting a bit further, failing again, over the course of like, I don't know, 2 months or 3 months even, and like that was so interesting that I watched every single I could not wait for the next day because I wanted to watch the next progress of this guy. And it was so crazy. Like that's when I noticed like dude, these journeys that's good stuff. Like I want something like that too.
yeah, absolutely. Like it is amazing just to like, you know, follow like a streamer that you're quite fond of, just and be able to look back and be like, oh my god, remember X number of months ago
Mm.
when you were at this point of the game. Now look how far you've come. Like it's nice to like be on that kind of journey with somebody, and it's nice to share that journey like with your viewers. So I definitely think that that's like an amazing way to kind of go about it, and especially you say like, you know, with how content creation, it like evolves and changes like a lot over time. You know, you look at like say like like what you said about like early speedrunning. Like you see like a lot of people who've been speedrunning for a long time. There's like a lot of ones who run normal base game Mario 64. Um they're like void of personality on their streams. But
Mhm.
like people are there because they've been there for a long time. They've been there from the
Exactly,
beginning.
yeah.
And I think like I've always had my issues with this because like but I think that's just with the evolution of content creation. But I these people, they don't need to be engaging. But
Mhm.
because like they have an established following. They never really were into streaming before, but it was because it became the thing and it was easy additional income for them, whatever it may be. But they don't need to be engaging because people are there to watch them play the game because they are like the top runners in the world. But they are essentially void of personality. They're not engaging. But then, like you say, it is important to have that sort of thing to get new people to come in. And it's like a sort of, it does become like a sort of standout thing. And, you know, to touch on like you saying about your titles of your streams, like I think that is like a massively slept on thing with streamers, that like your stream title is one of the more important things that you can have on your stream.
Hmm.
And the reason I've learned that, I used to just like have on my stream titles whatever it might have been, the most general sort of thing. But then like if you're looking to like grow, and if you're looking for somebody to raid out to, for example, like
Hmm.
if your title is not like anything related, you will not get noticed. Like
That is true. Yeah.
I'm in this ROM hack league at the moment for Mario
Hmm.
64, and I literally put um streaming Eureka for ROM hack league in my title.
Hmm.
Within about 20 minutes I get a raid from Lamus, I believe it was.
Hmm.
That never would have happened otherwise.
That is true. Yeah.
And it
Very,
is,
I also think it's very important. Yeah.
yeah, like, and I definitely think it is something that's slept on, depending on what you want to get out of it. Like if it's just your title is just playing this, it's like cool. So are 300 other people. Why should
Yeah.
I raid out to you? Kind of.
Especially as you said, like if you're looking to grow, at least like I can, because I know also many people just literally stream to like share their gameplay
Yeah.
with people. That's like a complete different story though. But yeah, if you want to create a little community and want to grow as a streamer, I think you should try your best with all these tiny things, because every little bit helps, like there's such an overflow of information and overflow of streamers and stuff, like everything can help. So, and
Yeah.
it's like it's not much effort, right? Like you just type a little
Exactly.
title there.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't have to be. That's the thing. It's like it's easy because it doesn't have to be creative. It just has to be like what you're doing and why.
Yep.
It's simple as, and you can put that into 6 words. Like it doesn't have to be like, I always try to like, whenever I do these things I always try to like make it funny, but then it doesn't have to be, because it just, then you're just kind of, you're streaming to your friends, and you know
Yeah.
you're not going to get like kind of, which is fine, but you're not going to get like what you really want out of it. So let's step back from streaming just for a minute. Now this is something I ask everybody I interview, and it throws a lot of people off, but again I think sometimes people get a bit coy when they answer this, but let's put all this aside for a minute. So outside of streaming and gaming, what are your main hobbies and interests? Like what are things that you enjoy outside of this little realm that we live in that most people wouldn't know about
Yeah, it's honestly like not too much.
you?
Because as much as streaming is like, I earn money from this by now, and this is like consuming so much time, it is still just my hobby after, at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean I do work. I have a full-time job, so I only stream like after work, which then if I stream 3 hours after like a normal day of work, it's like, yeah, the day is kind of over anyways. So
Of course.
then in the evenings, usually I just hang out with my wife. We cook something together, have fun, watch some anime. We are both very much into Japan, so we are
Mm.
like always like watching animes, checking out some mangas and stuff,
Ah, it's
and
unreal.
planning travels. For example, we both like to travel a lot, so
So
just like calm down from all the gaming and the internet world and just like
yeah, just
live
yeah,
around.
that you know what, that's as wholesome an answer as it can get. Like, you know, because so yeah, I think, you know, when you work full time and you do this like like 5 days a week, for example, like
Mhm.
there's not enough hours in the day to really do anything else. So you just have to kind of like
Yes.
take, you know, take comfort in all these little sort of like nice little home comforts you get, like just time with your wife and stuff like that. Like just, it's like really is just the sort of nice little thing to have. Like, am I right in saying, because obviously you say you're into Japan, and that obviously piques my interest.
Mhm.
Am I right in saying that you speak a little Japanese, or are you fluent in Japanese?
Yes, I do. Like, I wouldn't call myself fluent. I at least have the final language certificate, but
Oh,
I do like
amazing.
lots of speaking experience because, yeah, I don't speak that often. But in theory, I can speak pretty well, yes.
Yeah, that's good. 'Cause I recently got back from Japan myself, and like that is something that like culturally for them is they massively appreciate it if you do make an effort and speak their language a little bit.
Mhm.
But I find that I tried to learn before I went, and oh my god, it is incredibly difficult. Now maybe it's just the sort of thing you need to give it like the same sort of time you would
Yeah.
to give to any language, but it is. I definitely find it like incredible. Like there was so many like handfuls of phrases I could learn, but then I kept forgetting it and mispronouncing it, and like 99% of the time, like when you're in Japan, they will speak to you in Japanese, but then like they will give you a second to see if you actually kind of know what they're saying, and then
Mhm.
they will say it in English. And I
Mhm.
always felt bad. And like obviously there's like so many tourists in Japan at any given time, but like you do want to make an effort because it's not their language. You're going over to their country. You want to embrace their culture, speak their language a little bit, but it is I find it was an incredibly difficult, even just for the basic phrases. Like I so
Yeah.
fair play for being able to learn that. Have you ever been over to Japan yourself?
Yes, I actually lived there for a year.
Oh, amazing.
Like, after university, I went there for a year, and then the plan was to stay there also for kind of ever. And then at the last week of my visa expiration, COVID hit.
Oh
So
no.
I had to go back, and since then I'm back.
Always
But
COVID.
the
Always
the
COVID.
plan
Fucking everybody
yeah,
up.
the plan is still to move there permanently until this day. We are actually making, like, plans for that
Oh,
as like, not as
amazing.
we speak, but, like, these
Yeah.
days constantly. It is the big project IRL right now,
Yeah. I can't say I
because
blame you
it's
though, because Japan is
yeah,
incredible. Like
it
we were
is
we
it
were
is a
there.
great country,
Yeah.
but really hard to get into, unfortunately. We struggle a lot to
Yeah.
find a way.
Like me and my wife, we
Ah,
were there for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks
mm,
was not long enough. Like,
yeah,
you
I
know,
can imagine.
taking away the fact that it takes like a day to get there with like the time zone and flying, but
Mhm.
like as soon as we landed in Osaka, we were just like, yeah, we're staying here. Like, we're
Yeah,
staying.
it's incredible. It's a very nice country. I do
Yeah.
like it a lot.
What was your favorite
And
part? Like, what's your favorite place in Japan?
favorite place is interesting, because I've been, like, all over the country at this point. I have
Mhm.
been there, like, so often in vacations, and as I said, I was there for a year, so I was, like, in most major cities, I think, and also, like, very rural parts, and maybe not my favorite, but, like, a very dear place to my heart is called Atami.
Mm.
It's like a beach city close to Tokyo, like,
Okay.
maybe an hour with the fast train, because I lived there for quite a long I was there, like, 6 months, and it's also where I, met my wife,
Oh,
so,
amazing.
um, it's like it's just more like a dear place to my heart, I would say, and it's just, like, very chill and cool, so
Yeah. That's
that would
amazing.
be it.
Yeah, like it is honestly, it is just a phenomenal country. And I'm sure as well, like, does that sort of like having lived in Japan and experienced the culture and really being a fan of the culture, does that help like your love for anime as well? Or was that something that you just were a fan of before?
Um, it was a big mix because, like, also the reason I started learning Japanese was mostly because of video games first.
Hmm.
So it was like the love for video games, because I wanted to, like, play all the exclusive games that were, like, never released in the West and stuff. Which nowadays it doesn't make sense anymore because most of them have, like, fan translations and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was wasted effort. No, but I also was always a fan of anime for sure. Like, since I was young, I was watching, like, the classics, back in the days on, like, TV. There was, I don't know, Dragon Ball and all these
Yeah, of
things. So
course.
big motivation for me as well. And yeah, I just like it. It's nice.
Yeah, Dragon Ball is
Yeah,
definitely like a household favorite here as well. Like with me and my wife. Like
nice.
she'd never actually watched it until it might have just been around the time she moved in with me actually. I was like, "Oh yeah, I want to show you Dragon Ball Z," and
Mhm.
like I think in a sense, while we were watching it, like I was like living vicariously through her because it was her first time ever watching it, and like I think anybody who's ever seen Dragon Ball Z, you will remember the first time you watched it and the emotion that you feel. I
Mm.
was trying to relive that through my wife, basically. And it was just like, especially seeing like Goku turn Super Saiyan for the first time and
Oh
like Super
yeah, oh
Saiyan 3, it
yeah.
was just kind of like the
Wow.
And like even seeing a lot of that stuff in Japan as well was just like kind of awesome, you know. But that's
Mhm.
awesome, man. I absolutely love that. Like it's nice sort of like being sort of having that sort of like a different culture like so close to your heart and like having lived that as well. Like that's
Yes.
awesome, man. Like, you know.
And
Um
funnily enough, that turns us full circle back to streaming because in Japan was my very first speedrun event in person.
no way. That's
I was
awesome.
in Arte in Japan back in 2019 when I was very fresh to speedrunning still.
Hmm.
It was like before I had any kind of viewers on my channel and stuff as well. So I actually have a very, very big fan base in Japan about blindfolded speedruns, like Japanese viewers. So it's really, really cool. It's very kind. It's like they very much support me in lots of ways, and
That's so
it's so
awesome.
cool to see. Like, because they don't. Not many of them watch the streams actively, for example, because I do stream in English.
Yep.
But like whenever I go or like get accepted to an event that is in Japan, there is like just this massive flood of messages from like so many people like, yeah, you're back, like we are so happy to see you again and all. Like
Oh,
it's very, very cool.
that is amazing. Absolute like Japanese cult hero here.
Yeah.
That's so cool,
That
man.
one weird foreigner who came with a blindfold.
But still, you know, you have to have your niche and like it works. That's awesome, man. I absolutely love that. So like what's the potential then? Like have you been back to the speedrunning event since? Like obviously I know COVID kind of messed a lot of things up, but like has that been
Yeah.
something like since, or is there potential for that to be like a regular thing, or what's the story with
Yeah,
that?
definitely. Like I was there like in person, I was there once in 2019, the
Hmm.
first time, and since then I've been there as an online participant
Yeah.
like 3 times, I think. And it's a huge event. Like it is in terms of numbers as big as SGQ, I would say, maybe even bigger these days. So it's a huge event, and I really want to go in person again, but time wise, money wise, it's just
Yeah.
hard to manage to fly there just for an event.
Oh, of course. Like, you know, because you need to like you can't just go there for like the time of the event. You need to go there for
No,
like a much
no.
longer time that like,
Yeah, and the one of the other problems is that mostly the winter event is always starting on Christmas and ending on New Year's. So
Oh
it's like
man.
exactly during the holiday season when like you probably do something with like family and stuff.
Of course, yeah.
Um,
So was
but
this the event that you participated in at the start of September?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, because I remember you saying about it in your stream because like I was just like, oh, I'm going to be in Japan at the same time. That's cool. But then obviously it turned out online. But yeah, I that's
Yeah, it was
so
online. Like
hopefully.
they do it hybrid now. They do it offline, and what I find very cool from the event organizers, they do invite foreign runners from online, like also Japanese runners, of course, but they have like every single event now at least like 4 or 5 runners from overseas who participate online, and I think that's so cool. Like that's
Yeah.
a really nice gesture to like not make this event like Japanese
Yep.
exclusive, but like try to reach out and make speedrunning this like worldwide thing and very, very inclusive, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, that's 100% a good thing to do because like, you know, you do have like your in-person events like PAX and DreamHack and stuff, but like they'll all run simultaneously or around the same time, but it'll always be in like
Mhm,
a different location. Like I think PAX upcoming PAX is there's one in Melbourne and then there's one I think in Atlanta in America, I
mhm.
think, and they're running kind of, but then like it kind of almost sort of takes Europe out of it sort of thing. Like and a lot of these things do because they are stuck to their not quite immediate vicinity, but like, you know, their nationwide vicinity in a sense. Like and it makes it harder for obviously they do have things in Europe as well, like TwitchCon, like in Rotterdam and things like that. But
Mhm.
like at the same time, like I do think in terms of like Europe, it's kind of I think lacking in terms of like the big sort of events like that in
Yeah.
comparison. But you know, maybe that's maybe
Yeah, I've
something.
seen lots of like smaller events start
Yep.
not starting out, but actually like running in multiple countries nowadays too. Because there was always ESA as well in Sweden, but I've seen, for example, in Germany now, there's lots of like smaller events, and there's like a whole German speedrunning community who does also organize events. And like it's more like country based, I think, because in the
Yeah.
UK, I think there's also how's it called? UKSG or something?
I think
Some
so.
some
Yeah,
some something
it
like
does
that.
sound familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a UK-based event. I know there's one in the Netherlands as well. I think it's called BSG.
Yep.
So it's more like country-based. In France, there's also the SpeedCon now they have as a speedrunning event. So I think these things gain with popularity also nowadays, especially since COVID, since people want to like again meet up with other speedrunners and like connect and all, which is very cool. So I can highly recommend if anyone lives in Europe, like check your local events out. There are probably some if you search.
Yeah, well, that's true because I'm actually going to one in a few weeks in Dublin.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of it. It's just bad. I think it's like GamerCon or something like that. But it's just a small event. Like definitely a few things showcased. You get to go down and like, it was like one of the normal like ticketed events. You go over like a weekend or something. But
Hmm.
I think definitely, like you say, there's a good way to like network, and even if you're going and nobody knows you are, that's a good way for people to be like, oh, okay, cool. I watch these streams. Let's kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
network and do
absolutely.
something. Like it's amazing. So yeah, Bubsy, I just have one final question for you. So obviously, this is something you've been doing for a very long time, and with that, there's been like incredible growth, and I'm sure with that some highs and lows. So looking back to when you began, what advice would you give to your younger self, and also to any other aspiring streamers slash speedrunners, whether they just want to get into streaming speedrunning normally, or whether they want to get into the blindfolded scene?
Hmm. So as a from the speedrunning perspective, um, don't be scared to branch out to other games. Try out something that really fits you. Because I've seen many people, as bad as it sounds, for example, start SM64 speedrunning because it's the most popular game.
I agree.
And like that's the okay, they actually don't have any connection to the game. They don't really like it even at the beginning. But it's like, okay, this is the thing that everyone is doing, so I will do it too. There is so many amazing speedruns and also communities out there, even if they are smaller. Like the thing is, it doesn't really matter in the beginning when you start out, anyways, like how big the size of the viewers and community is, I think, because you will have even much of a better chance to get into a community and get noticed by the community members if the community is not as big as SM64. Like when I remember like one of the most kindest and most dearest times in my speedrunning career was when I did Near Automata Blindfolded, and like the speedrunning community of the game is like, I don't know, it was like 10 people who speedrun the game. So it was a very small community, and but all of them very dedicated to the game. And you could feel these people are not here for the fame or anything. They speedrun the game because they love it. It's like the love to the game, and you can just share this like passion about whatever you are passionate about so well with these people. And like we became so good friends with everyone. Like we were like hanging out in like Discord calls, even like not speedrunning and all. Like we became like friends actually.
That's amazing.
So I think it's very, very good to like do something you enjoy. Try to find like your people and all. Don't be afraid to try new things, especially when you start out, because it's important, in my opinion. And in terms of streaming advice, um, if I could start again, what I would do better is probably like just speaking now, totally streamer, content creator, and numbers type of view. I would start making much earlier and quicker stuff on YouTube as well, even if it's just streams, because YouTube is such an important like Twitch is good, Twitch is cool and all for streams, but like it is impossible to grow on Twitch
Mhm.
if you are not lucky. Like you are very limited in what you can do on Twitch alone. And if you have a YouTube channel where you don't even need to edit things, but like, even what I do now, just multi-stream there, like stream also to YouTube. Like that's daily or like every second day when you stream like content that is there. And then if you want to really focus on it, like make some videos, highlight reels, put on a good thumbnail. That's one thing I really regret, because um like when I uploaded my first few world records and stuff in all these different games, like nobody saw these videos. Like even if the gameplay was amazing and anything, nobody saw the videos because I just uploaded it without thumbnail, with like a normal title, nothing else, and yeah, people just didn't find it. Now it's like, yeah, one of my most proud world records, and I don't know, Metroid or something has like, I don't know, 100 views there, which, yeah, it could have probably been done better from my end if I put a bit more effort, but like, you don't know these things when you
Yeah.
start out. So that's something I would suggest if you want to at least like put effort into YouTube and grow. If you want to grow, put effort into YouTube for sure. And yeah, stream, for example, also on TikTok. That's very good to start out. Like, try to branch out, try to make yourself seen. And there was one more thing that I had in mind, but now I forgot about it. Wait, we talked about YouTube, streaming, communities. Oh yeah, one thing that's like, because that I can very much speak from my own experience. Uh, because that is what blew my channel up. I streamed for like more than 3 years to like, I don't know, like basically no one, to
Mhm.
like 2 viewers maybe average, for like, yeah, more than 3 years with blindfolded speedruns. Before I kind of blew up, if you can call it like that, or like before my channel started to grow.
Yeah.
And what caused it was um, mostly events. Like, I got accepted into SGDQ with a random ass speedrun. It wasn't even Mario 64. It was a random ass Smash 64 run that I learned in like 2 days. So, just try to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And GDQ, of course, is now like the speedrunning, like the high class, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But even if you just go to like other events, that definitely helps out to, always people say like, community and like networking is everything. And I was always like, yeah, dude, I don't want to network. I'm like, I'm a shy person. I don't want to do that. And as much as you don't need to do much, but like, just going to events and like talking, like seeing another person play Ocarina of Time and be like, hey, well, cool, that's I like this game.
Yeah.
Like, even with like stuff like this, you can make very good friends, and that in the large picture really helps with growth, I think, to have like people that know you, not only as a like streamer on the screen, but like in person. And so yeah, I'm talking very weird things now, but long story short, I think going as a small speedrunner, going to events is the best ticket to like get noticed for sure. No matter what, no matter what size you are, honestly,
Yeah.
like even big streamers can benefit from it, even small streamers, everyone.
Absolutely, and that's absolutely some solid advice there. Like I particularly like the bit about YouTube as well, because that's something that's consistently come up here. Is that a lot of people, and they've never looked at YouTube on hindsight and said, "I wish I'd done it sooner." And like the
Mm,
fact that you've been able to say, "Okay, if you want to do it on YouTube, this is the best way, the best channels to sort of like go about it." Because a lot of people I've spoke to have said, "Oh, I've recently discovered that going live on YouTube has had these benefits and stuff," and it's like cool, and I think it just goes to show that it does work. YouTube is like, because YouTube was like the OG kind of platform. Like that's where
mhm.
everybody put up their content like originally, and then obviously everything became short form. Now I know YouTube has its shorts as well, but um, I don't think it's in terms of like gripping as like it would be for TikTok and Instagram Reels, for example. Like, but yeah, YouTube like is definitely, I think it's something that like I've definitely learned from what you say in there, because YouTube's something that like I exactly what you said. What I do for YouTube is if I do an offline speed run, I will
Mhm.
clip it, put it up on YouTube, and submit it to speedrun. That's what I do. And I
Yeah.
think the most number of views I've got on one of my videos is like 25, 30, and like I look at that and I don't care, but then obviously like you say, like looking at it in the bigger picture, and it will help your growth like exponentially like everywhere else. So that's definitely like some solid advice, and something that I
Yes.
think personally I'm gonna adopt into like my own thing. Amazing. Yeah, well that's definitely something to learn, like especially for everybody listening as well. Like, if you are looking to grow, then um this is the guy you listen to. Bubzia is the guy you listen to, like over the, especially with his journey over the last number of years. But Bubsy, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your Sunday morning to come on and have this chat. It has been amazing. Do you have any final thoughts, final words for the listeners today?
Um, Not really. Never give up. Keep fighting. Do your thing.
Absolutely solid words to live by. But yes, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Behind the Camera with Andy Games. I am, as always, Andy Games _94. My guest today has been Bubzia. You know where to find Bubzia. Bubzia is at Bubzia on Twitch, on Instagram, on TikTok. You know where to find him. You know where to find me. But until next time, guys, this has been Behind the Camera. We'll be back again with another guest very soon. But yes, thank you again for tuning in, and we shall see you guys soon. Thank you.